All right, so Amazon Prime got a new zombie movie called Apocalypse Z: The Beginning of the End? Question mark. That's actually a good question mark because I'm kind of curious on if this is the beginning of the end. This leaves off very much in a place where I'm assuming a sequel is coming, or I don't know. It felt very much like this was setting up to be more. I Because of the title and because of how it ends, I have to assume that this is meant to be more than one film, but remains to be seen. I haven't seen any promotional material for a sequel yet. I didn't look too heavily into it on my phone, but I will after I record this. So maybe there will be more, maybe there won't. I don't know. This is a Spanish horror zombie film, and this is about a guy who goes through a tragedy, and a year later, the zombie apocalypse breaks out, and he's kind of a loner. He's by himself, and he's trying to survive. Now, this is a pretty typical zombie film. I think for zombie enthusiasts, this is definitely worth your time. I think this is a good addition to the zombie movie subgenre. But if you're somebody who's kind of burnt out on them and you're like only really, really noteworthy, great ones that bring something new to the table, are fresh, unique, I think this probably could be one that you can skip over. This has a lot of like classic tropes. One thing I did really like about the movie, though, the movie has heart. I think it does good with the characters. Our main character is going through some stuff, and I think his performance is good. And he's trying to, him and his sister have a good relationship, and he's trying to get to her. He also carries around with him a cat, so it kind of reminded me a bit of A Quiet Place Day One from earlier this year in that way. The cat isn't as much of a character in this as that cat was, because that cat is like a legit character, Frodo. But this cat is with him the majority of the time. But one aspect of the film that I loved and I always want to see more of, and thank you to this character for doing it, is that he wears body armor. And he does it in the way of a wetsuit with some like gauntlet type things on his wrists. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Because I always say, get in like a leather gimp suit from Pulp Fiction, something like that. You can't bite through that shit. Wetsuits are the same. Wetsuits are super thick. Trying to bite through a wetsuit, yeah, you'd hurt. It would hurt like a motherfucker. But breaking the skin and getting into your body, probably not. I Have you ever tried? I've worn a lot of wetsuits when I was growing up in Huntington Beach as a kid, and I was a boogie boarder. I used to be in a wetsuit all the time, and that shit was thick, and then you bite on it, and there's no way you're getting through that thing. So, uh, thank God for that. I can't get it through my head why. And I guess it's for convenience, right? So the writers don't have to try to write around zombies not being able to attack their protagonists. That's the threat, is that they're just have open skin for any zombie to bite, and if they wear armor, then it takes the threat level down. But it's like, not if your screenplay is smart enough, not if your perils are even more treacherous because of your good writing. So I don't know. I see it as an excuse. I think most people would be smart enough to figure out eventually, after a few days in it, like, hey, maybe I should wear something to protect my skin, because if I get bitten, I turn into a fucking zombie. It doesn't seem like it takes much intelligence to come to that conclusion. Anyway, so kudos to them for that. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a very standard. It reminded me a bit of the movie The Night Eats the World, I think is what that was called. I think it's a French film. I watched it many years ago. I did review it on the channel. That one felt a little more metaphorical, as to where this one is more straightforward and is dealing with like grief and loneliness and determination. And I bought into it enough. The movie is longer. I don't think it needs to be this long, but it is over 2 hours, so that might turn some people off, especially since it is a foreign subtitled film. Amazon does have a dub for it if you want that, or if you want subs in the original language, it has that as well. But the trek through the city, and once he goes out and he's got a motorcycle and he's out in the world, I actually thought a lot of that stuff was good. These are fast running zombies, so this is more in line with something like 28 Days Later. Shout out to 28 Years Later trilogy that is currently being filmed. I guess we got confirmation from Ralph Fiennes recently that two of the three films have already been filmed. So that's exciting and something to look forward to, because I really enjoy the 28 series thus far with 28 days and 28 weeks. So very much looking forward to three more films. So I would say this is more in line with something like those films, the zombies in this. Now, as far as like um, gore and that stuff goes, zombie films can be very graphic. I was talking earlier today with my wife about Walking Dead and how uh, underappreciated that series is for its level of violence and gore seen on screen, both with the zombies attacking people and the things that they do to them, but also the zombies themselves getting mutilated and their bodies kind of being decimated and falling apart and torn apart and whatever. There's insane levels of graphic violence in that show. And that's one of the things that I love about zombie films. I mean, particularly something like Romero's Day of the Dead is a perfect example of how graphic zombie films can be. And one of the things I do love about zombie films is seeing the makeup and the effects for the zombies themselves, but also the kills that they do within the film. And this one has nothing noteworthy when it comes to that. So that was lackluster, and I really wish that that was part of it. But it is a big dystopian world that he's out running around in. And we moved to multiple locations, and they do a good job of making the world look desolate. So I was pretty impressed with the overall production value of this, like the scope of this kind of like more intimate story with one guy traversing bigger areas. So I did like that. It's not the I'd say half of the movie is more of him contained and trying to figure out what to do, and then the second half is more of like a road movie. But yeah, overall, as I said, I don't think it's gonna win over any zombie haters, but anyone who's like super into the subgenre and is looking for a new good addition, nothing fantastic, but a good movie in the zombie subgenre, this is definitely one worth checking out. I will be curious on what you guys think, and I will see you in the comments. All right, adios.